Nowadays, people tend to sometimes forget that cars haven't always looked like they do now. Cars used to mostly be open top with really thin wheels, and honestly, they looked like they were gonna fall apart from how skinny everything was. Obviously, over the years, cars have had a lot of advancements. But when you think about it, there's a lot of features that used to be offered in cars that aren't offered now. A lot of little designs that for some reason didn't survive. And some of them for very good reason. Like honestly, imagine an era of vehicles where any head-on collision, even if it wasn't that bad, was pretty much guaranteed to kill you. So what are some car features, car designs that have not survived? And is there a good reason for it? A good way to start off is with a feature that most people consider their favorites and wish that never actually got removed from any cars. And that would be the famous pop-up headlights. Now, there were a lot of cars across the 80s and the 90s mostly, especially on Japanese vehicles, that used pop-up headlights. And for some cars, especially sports cars, they were very effective to make more aerodynamic cars. At that point in time, headlights weren't exactly very different in terms of shape. Nowadays, a lot of car manufacturers use molded headlights that pretty much just kind of follow the lines of the rest of the vehicle. But back in the day, a lot of them just use standardized headlights, like round or rectangular shaped ones. And then from there, tried to mold the car around the headlights versus trying to mold them all together. As a result, a lot of sports car manufacturers used pop-up headlights. That way, when it wasn't night out, you could hide the headlights away and make the car more aerodynamic. But pop-up headlights, according to newer safety regulations, were hazardous to pedestrians. So in other words, if you go around willy-nilly running people over, you had a higher chance of impaling them or severely injuring them. Why? Because, well, pop-up headlights mean that the headlights pop up and then there are corners on them. Typically, pop-up headlights were very squared off. Some had like some rounder corners, but for the most part, they were squared off, which means you have sharp, non-flat edges. Most cars nowadays in the front need to be a bit flatter. The very last production pop-up headlight was in the C5 Corvette, which was finally retired in 2004. Now, the C5 Corvette's pop-up headlight is an example of ones that are a bit rounder on the corners, but at that point, the safety regulation had already gone through and it just wasn't worth it anymore for car manufacturers to continue producing pop-up headlights. Speaking of safety regulations, it kind of throws us into the next one, hood ornaments. Now, you might be slightly confused. I mean, hood ornaments are still kind of a thing. You can find them on some like executive sedan Mercedes. They're still on Rolls-Royce vehicles too. Granted, the Rolls-Royce one is retractable, but hood ornaments are also a safety hazard for pedestrians, at least according to safety regulations. I mean, having a giant chunk of metal sticking out of your hood and you run someone over, you could kind of see why it might be a safety regulation. Then again, just try not to run someone over. Now, obviously, this all kind of depends on the country. Each country and each region have different safety regulations. So again, like I said, there are some executive sedans and Mercedes that still have hood ornaments, but for the most part, American companies like Cadillac don't have them anymore. Now, it's funny we're talking about safety, because how about we go into driver safety? One design that caught on, but not for very long, were automatic seatbelts. They didn't look exactly like seatbelts do now. It's not like your seatbelt was hanging up here and it just decided to just magically stretch itself down to the buckle. These seatbelts sat on a rail on the door frame. The moment you open the door, they would get pulled down and out of the way so that you could comfortably get in. And then the moment that you would get in and close the door, the seatbelt would get moved right back down the rail and come right across your chest. They were cool in theory, but they only lasted about 2 years, and they actually had a higher chance of getting you killed, and not really because of the design, more so because of people's stupidity. See, the issue is that humans are neglectful, pompous, idiotic, ignorant, occupied? Nah. Humans are morons. We're all fucking stupid. See, the issue is that there was also a lap belt, but because, oh well, the door closed, my seatbelt's across my chest, that means my seatbelt's on. people would forget to put on the lap belt, which means that when they got into an accident, they were fucked. Note, this was also a period of time where having an airbag wasn't mandated for every vehicle according to US safety regulations. So if you forgot to put on your lap belt because you automatically assumed your full seatbelt was on with the chest strap, you were going to die. So that was canned very quickly. And then in the early 90s, that's when the US safety regulations finally mandated that all cars have airbags. Now that's obviously one driver safety related thing, but there's actually another one. And this one could genuinely kill you. See, nowadays cars have collapsible steering shafts, but why are they collapsible? See, when you get into a head-on collision, everything in the front is getting pushed back. That includes the steering column. But you see, back in the day, steering columns were solid, one solid tube. At the time, that's just the design that made sense. But then what's the point of making them collapsible? I mean, cars from the old days still worked just fine. It's not like anything was wrong with the steering columns. You're right. The steering columns worked perfectly. What was wrong with them is once you got into an accident. See, the fact that the steering column wasn't collapsible means that when you got into a head-on collision and everything in the front is getting pushed up, sometimes the steering column would get shoved right through the steering wheel, and because it's not collapsing, the only way it has to go is up, straight through the driver. So the steering column was made collapsible so that when you got into a head-on collision, if you got into a head-on collision, the steering column would collapse on itself instead of getting speared through the steering wheel and turning you into a human kebab. It was dangerous. Another feature that was discontinued for maybe less of a good reason, and one that won't kill you, don't worry. T-tops. Most people don't know what T-tops are. There was a period of time when there was fear that the convertible would get completely discontinued, become extinct. No one would ever make a convertible car ever again. Again, safety regulations. As a way to still be able to create an open-top car, some car companies created what is called a T-top. T-top is just short for Targa top. Now, Targa tops were started by Porsche in the 1960s, 1966 specifically. Now, T-tops could be found in a variety of different cars, Japanese cars, European cars, even some American cars. But they didn't last very long because of low sales. And when the company started kind of working around the new convertible regulations, they just kind of went back to convertibles. Now, another design choice that personally I'm happy is no longer a thing, and this is a personal taste thing, but it's wood grain on the side of station wagons. I'm gonna be honest, it looked like shit. It still looks like shit. When I see those cars, I think they look like shit. And you know, honestly, there's nothing you can do to change my mind other than the fact that they look like shit. That at that point isn't really me criticizing the form of anything, it's just the material choice. And if you like those station wagons with the wood grain on the side, you're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion is wrong. Overall, we should all be very glad that a good chunk of these car features no longer exist and that they're designed better now. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on them post notifications. Follow me on my social medias. Follow me on my Twitter. Nothing happens there. Follow me on my Instagram. I post design bits there, which you could also see here, but just follow me on the fucking Instagram, please. Follow me on TikTok. I post more design bits there too. I post them in 3 different places. I'm trying to get traction. Come on now. Don't judge me. I will probably be posting other things to both Instagram and TikTok in terms of like short design content, but that's all I have for now. Follow me on Twitch. I don't know when the next time I'm going to go live is, but hopefully soon. And subscribe to the second channel. I'm going to probably soon post something there that's, you know, not design related, because that's the whole purpose of that channel. And I hope that wherever you guys are, whenever you guys are watching today's video, you have a great, wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.